Welcome to the 50, 40, 90 interview series.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Uriah Young, along with my co-host, Lucas Johnson. How you doing, Lucas?
I'm doing good. I'm excited about this interview.
Our special guest today is Neil Boyle, who is an acclaimed animator and director whose career spans some of the most influential animated projects of the last several decades. After film school, Boyle was mentored by legendary animator Richard Williams and worked on groundbreaking films like Who Framed Roger Rabbit and The Thief and the Cobbler. He later served as supervising animator on Space Jam. Yes, Space Jam. We just did a review last summer. And collaborated with animation icon Sylvain Chomet on multiple projects, including work connected to The Simpsons. More recently, Boyle co-directed the BAFTA-nominated animated feature Kensuke's Kingdom, continuing a career defined by artistic innovation and storytelling across film, television, and animation. Welcome to the show, Neil.
Welcome, man.
I'm delighted to be here. Thank you. It's a real privilege to be here.
Yes. Before we begin, I just told this story, but I'm going to tell it again for our audience. Space Jam is the reason why Neil is here with us. We recorded a movie review and we went through all the actors, the scenes, the direction, and to celebrate the 30th anniversary of that classic film with Michael Jordan and Bugs Bunny, we invited Neil on. And I was telling Neil just before we started recording that a friend of mine or friends of mine has a son out in California. I spent time with him last summer and he's only 7 years old. This 7-year-old child sat with me and watched the entire Space Jam movie, beginning to end, knew every scene, knew every line. It just shows that the legacy of the work that you put forth 30 years ago, Neil, is still alive and well. So kudos to you for that project, and we're happy to have you here.
Absolutely,
You have made not only my day, but my week and probably my year. That's a fabulous story.
Let's give our listeners what they're looking for, and that's some behind-the-scenes stuff when it comes to this fantastic film. Let's start off with your role in this film, Space Jam. Tell us exactly what a supervising animator does, and what would you say your main responsibilities were on the movie Space Jam?
Well, a supervising animator, there's sort of two parts to the job, and the first part starts before filming and before all the other animators come on. And all the supervising animators work together to either design the new characters or help towards designing the new characters, and also storyboard sequences and sort of visualize stuff. But we also do test animation. So if you have new characters like the Monstars in Space Jam, you've got to figure out how they move, and you've got to do a bit of experimentation so that by the time the actual animators come into production, you can just point to something and say, we kind of want something like this. This is the kind of way we're going. So that's the first part of the job. And then the second part of the job, when all the animators come on, each supervising animator has maybe anywhere between 20, 30, 40 animators working with them. And I mean, people don't realize, people think this drawn animation is all about drawing, and it's kind of given that the animators can draw really well. We employ them because they're good actors. Animation is all about performing and acting, and they call animators actors with a pencil. So it's like slow motion acting. So you get to know your animators, and I would talk to the directors about what they wanted in the broadest terms, like we want this exciting or slow or funny or whatever it is. The drama they were after. And I could then go back to my crew and go, oh, that person's really good at that. This person's really good at that. That person's got a good way of drawing that. So you kind of cast it. It's probably not that dissimilar to people in a basketball game. That player's going to be good there. They're going to be good there. You kind of move people around to their strengths. So that's essentially what a supervising animator does. You're the sort of bridge between what the director wants to do, and then you can talk to each animator in that kind of nerdy, geeky little technical language that they need in order to achieve the shots.
I find that really interesting. My follow-up question to that is this. What was the biggest technical challenge in making animated characters interact with actors like Michael Jordan?
I think always the hardest thing with this is getting the audience to really believe that the real people and the animated people are really there together. And I had some experience in this because, as you say, I'd worked on Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which was kind of 7 or 8 years before this. And Who Framed Roger Rabbit was all film opticals, photochemical. There was no digital visual effects then. So, and it was hand painted every frame, So the leap technologically between what we did on Roger Rabbit and Space Jam was quite interesting. So we learned from a previous experience on Roger Rabbit that there were kind of like two most important things to making a movie like this work. And one is that you got to have really good eye contact between the cartoon characters and the actors. It's really weird that if somebody's looking like 3 inches to the left of where somebody's head is or their eyes are, it just destroys the illusion, no matter how good the animation. So you got to work on getting that right. But the even more important thing maybe is getting interaction in there, getting characters tangled up with each other, getting the live action Michael Jordan really interacting with the drawn Bugs Bunny. So like an example of that would be right at the beginning of the section where Michael Jordan lands in the sort of cartoon Warner Brothers land. Bugs goes right up to him and he kind of yanks him by the collar and plants a big smacker on the side of his
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
But in order to achieve that, so that Michael Jordan wasn't just kind of miming, to nothing, and then we'd add it, we were shooting on a green screen stage, and we had an actor dressed up completely in green gloves, green mask, everything, the tiny little slit they could see out of. And he went up to Michael Jordan and literally grabbed him with his green gloves, yanked him, planted a kind of smacker on the side of his head, and then pushed him back. And then we could remove the green guy, and then over the top of that, draw in Bugs Bunny. But that real sense of a cartoon character pulling a live action character and him reacting and all that kind of stuff, that's where the secret of the illusion is. Otherwise, you just got a real person standing there and a kind of just, a cartoon character standing on a piece of glass next to them. You really got to tangle them into each other to make the illusion work.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, that challenge of acting, I mean, just with another human in the same frame is in and of itself chemistry and technique and delivering and executing dialogue flawlessly. I'd done a little bit of acting in my career, and I remember I was auditioning for something, and this casting director said something that resonated with me. He says, there's 3 connections when it comes to acting. There's the actor connecting with the character in the story, in the film. Then there's the character connecting with other characters on stage or in film. And then there's the actors connecting with the audience. And when you mention the challenge of the 3 inches off, the eye contact, even with animation, it makes all the sense in the world. And I do like the metaphor that you mentioned, that you were the bridge. As the lead animator, you were the bridge between what the director wanted and what the animators needed. So thank you for clarifying that. My question to you next is, how closely did the animation team work with the live action crew during filming? Like, how often did they meet? Did they meet every day? Did they debrief at the end of every day? How close did they work together?
Well, in my case, and for several of the other supervisors, we were really lucky that we were invited on set during the filming. So, I mean, my studio is based in London, but I lived out in LA for pre-production and for most of the filming. And so I was certainly on the green screen stages all the time. And all that, most of the time, you're just lurking behind the camera, watching what people are doing. But what you're really doing is keeping an eye out for any problems. It's really easy for things to drift and for people to be looking at the wrong height for where characters should be and all this kind of stuff. So they like to have us around because once they'd set the camera up and got the lights set up, they would sometimes say, what do you think about this? And what I could do, or one of the other supervisors, is go up to the monitor and do a quick sketch of where Michael Jordan was, let's say, and then go, okay, well, if he's talking to Daffy's going to be about here. And you do a drawing, a quick sketch. And they go, all right, we kind of wanted to see all of Daffy and not just his shoulders. So so they would adjust the camera. So it was quite an organic process of doing really, really fast, pretty terrible, but, quick sketches to show how it would look before we went into the full animation. But it was a fantastic process, actually. Michael Jordan was lovely. I'd obviously never met him before. He was the nicest guy. Oh, my God, so friendly. And actually between shots, he would come over because he's Well, of course he's tall. I'm reasonably tall, but I'm used to looking down. He's
Yeah.
up there. So, hi, Michael. Like this. But he would sometimes, for fun, while they were setting up the lights or something, come over and do some tricks, and then he'd try and make us do them. So,
Okay.
I would
Oh,
do my
okay.
pathetic attempt where the ball just fell off and then rolled off into some light stands or something. And then he would
Right.
just laugh, and I went, "Yeah, okay, I'll do the drawing, Michael. You do the acting and the basketball."
Yeah.
You mentioned Daffy Duck, and that brings me to my next question here. Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck's personalities are so iconic. How did you balance staying true to the classic Looney Tunes animation while adapting to the modern sports movie?
Well, they gave us loads and loads of research to look at, because obviously
Mhm.
Warner Brothers has got decades of old cartoons behind, historical stuff that we could look at. And old model sheets, they're called. So animators draw from model sheets. So you have these things which show you the character drawn in all sorts of positions, front, behind, top, below, and so on, so that you know how to kind of rotate them in space. So we had all that kind of stuff. But they back when we were making Space Jam, it was laser discs. That was the technology. So they
Mm.
gave a stack of like every Warner Brothers cartoon ever made. And so I would be at work drawing Warner Brothers characters and storyboarding Warner Brothers characters and talking about Warner Brothers characters, and then I'd go home to my apartment and eat something, and then I'd watch Warner Brothers cartoons, and then I'd go to sleep and dream Warner Brothers dreams, and then I'd just
Oh
wake up and
boy.
do the whole thing again. So you were completely submerged in this world for months. But it was interesting that you had to. Here's something that's interesting about Warner Brothers characters is that when they were designed, obviously the only kind of animation that existed in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s was hand-drawn animation, and also stop
Yeah.
motion.
Yeah.
And therefore, when you draw these characters, you can kind of cheat their design a little bit. So by which I mean you can design a face that looks really good from the front, and you can design a face that looks really good in 3/4, but maybe doesn't look so great in profile. But you just never draw it that way when you're drawing it. In the modern world, with CG, where you actually build models, it has to look great from all angles. So the thing with the Warner's characters is that actually they don't work three-dimensionally. No,
Mm.
like Bugs and
Oh.
Daffy are really tough. You can't really truly rotate them. And they used to play a little trick. Like they'd have a really great drawing here. They say this is Daffy, with his beak, and then he looks great from there. And then the drawing in between would be like a kind of blur, because that was the one where he maybe didn't look so good. So in Space Jam, it was tough because Joe Picker, the director, would have a moving camera, and sometimes it'd be kind of dollying and craning around. And these characters were never designed to be rotated slowly. So we had to
Mm.
Mhm.
pull all sorts of tricks to try and make sure that Bugs and Daffy and the other characters were always sort of facing to camera in their optimum position. Their best, like actors say, I have my best side. I want to be seen in the kind of Bugs and Daffy are very, very similar to that. It's like Mickey Mouse, that's a classic thing with the black ears, and however he turns his head, they're just black circles. But you
Yeah.
can't build that three-dimensionally. You'd have two
Right.
spheres on a gimbal that rotated. It'd be crazy. You can draw it, but so the drawing in the 3D is kind of a weird thing, and you have to live in a sort of 2.5D world and slightly fake it to make it all work. But we got it to work, so that's a relief.
That makes sense
Yeah.
why we don't really see very much Warner Brothers 3D animation, Looney Tunes at this point in time, because everything's 3D now. So yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
And if you think of sometimes the little toys you see in toy shops or Bugs or
Mhm.
whatever, and you kind of look at it and you go, oh, that looks like Bugs, and then you turn it and you go, it doesn't really look very much like Bugs. That's why, because
Mhm.
they can't. It is actually almost impossible as a
Right.
three-dimensional object in the real world.
My question before I get to it, I just want to go through a few favorite scenes of the Looney Tunes characters
Mm.
and some of their realistic basketball movement.
Mm.
Lola Bunny was the baller of the bunch. She was probably the most talented character basketball wise.
Yeah.
Bugs
I-
had game.
We have her here.
Tasmanian Devil was funny because he just spun around and shredding
really
everything.
cool, yeah.
Yeah. Who's some other characters? Elmer Fudd had a scene in Space Jam where he breaks through to characters and is doing like a one-handed jam. So by describing some of those scenes of those animated characters, here's the next question. So because Space Jam features a lot of fast-paced basketball action, we want to know from you, what was the process of animating the realistic basketball movement while keeping the exaggerated Looney Tunes style? Was there like a list of like, all right, Bugs is gonna dunk and the Tweety Bird's gonna do this? Like, did you guys have a list of that? How did that go?
Not really. I mean, some of the scenes were just organized to play to their strengths, like the kind of gag
Okay.
that they would pull off. But it's interesting you mention that because, of course, I was coming from London to Britain to work on this film, and back when this was made, basketball, steady guys, this is going to be a big shot. Basketball was
Yes.
not a
Yeah.
big deal in the UK, right? I mean, we knew of it, but
That
it's
makes
not taught
sense.
in
Right.
school drills.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a shock, right? But
Yeah.
so when I went out there, I didn't know much about basketball, and we were talking to the American animators, and they were using all this terminology while we're storyboarding. They're going to do this kind of pass and that. We're going, what? What are you talking about? And they realized really fast that we needed to go to sort of boot camp, like like when they have actors and they stick them in army boot camp for military.
Yeah.
They got us limey British animators, and they said we're going to take you up into the Hollywood Hills to a basketball court up there. They knew, and we're gonna teach you. We're gonna play some games with you, like friendly, but we're gonna teach you some moves, because like we were talking about animators being actors with pencils.
Hmm.
The easiest way to animate something is to understand it, is to feel it. If you can do it yourself and understand what that move is and learn it, then you can draw it and you can perform it
Mhm.
no matter which character you're drawing. So they took us out into the hills, and guys, I tell you, I nearly died. I mean, I nearly died. Oh boy, I was not prepared for how high energy this was. I thought even before the film began, it was going to be, this film is dedicated to the memory of Neil Boyle.
No.
I have a heart attack. And they were laughing at us, but in a friendly way. But we weren't great. We were terrible, but we got a feel of the moves, and they taught us, you do this with your hands on. And like I say, once you get the feel of that, you can draw it, and then you can apply that to any of the characters. Then it was kind of easy to animate it and to come up with new gags.
The boot camp.
Absolutely.
I love it. I love it.
When it beats just sitting on a desk, because animators generally are just sat on a chain to a desk for 10 hours a day. So to actually get out and do something and feel it physically
They
was
put you in the
brilliant.
game. They
Yeah,
put you in the
Yeah.
totally.
game,
They put
literally.
you in the game. Do you like basketball now, or are you still not a fan?
Well, it put me in the game, pretty terrible game from my point of view. But yeah, but no, I enjoyed it. But I only did a little bit of it because I think it actually would have killed me.
All right. So my next question to you is, did the animator study the playing style of the NBA stars like Charles Barkley, Patrick Ewing, and Larry Johnson to bring authenticity to the animated sequences in regards to the Monstars?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I guess there were two things going on there. We looked to a lot of video footage initially anyway, because we had to design the Monstars, and a bunch of people worked
Mhm.
on designs. So they needed to kind of look like them, but not, a caricature of them so you could
Mhm.
recognize them, but, they're also these creatures. So it started with that. But in the process of doing that, we just looked at hundreds of hours of video, which also helped us as
Mhm.
animators to figure out what it was that made them distinctive, and then
Gotcha.
try and get that into the animation. So you're literally framing through, like going, oh, that's kind of interesting. They do that with their fingers, or they stretch in a certain way, or they hunch in a certain way, and you make these little sketches, and that then feeds into everyone's animation, which is part of what a supervisor does. You make notes
Yeah.
of these things, and then you talk to each animator and say, make sure you do this kind of move.
You mentioned stretching, and there's a scene that everyone remembers, that final scene where Michael Jordan stretches his arm like super hyper extended, like he's a Looney Tune character himself. I'm assuming that was not easy to do as an animator. So this next question to you is, which scene from Space Jam do you feel your team or you yourself found most difficult to animate, and why?
Hmm. All of them are quite difficult. The one that was difficult, and it wasn't actually because of basketball moves, it was just the complexity of the shot, is at the front of the film, there's a conference that Michael Jordan's having, and the camera cranes up
Yeah.
through the ceiling,
Yeah.
across the city, up to the moon, past the moon, through space, and into Moron Mountain.
Oh.
and then closer and closer and closer until you're in on two characters, and that was epic. I mean, my studio worked on that a long time, storyboarding, did a lot of animation in it, and that was really tough. CG, 3D, 2D, all these different levels working. It seemed like it was something that was never going to be finished, but we got there in the end.
Yeah.
And it went through so many design processes because you want to be able to show the director, what does Moron Mountain mean? What does it look like? I mean, I don't know if I can hold you up and you can see this. I have this piece of artwork, which is a conceptual of Panic Through.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
And this was
Sure.
That's
just one
fascinating.
concept. My room is being reflected there, but that's just one concept for how Moron Mountain could look. And we had, dozens of these. This is a copy, but the actual artwork is even bigger.
Oh, I
So you
can
do a
believe
lot
it.
of work like that. It doesn't end up on the screen directly, but just to be able to show the director, do you mean something like this, something like that, and so on. And then it takes months, and then you sit in the cinema and it goes, and you go, oh, and it's over, and you're like, wow, did we really struggle? That all
Wow.
looks quite easy now. That's probably the hardest shot, I think, for me.
That's fair. You said it took you a very long time, but my question is, how long did it take to animate a typical scene in the film from storyboard to final frame?
That is almost impossible to answer. On a normal movie, I could answer that, but the thing about Space Jam is that it was made very, very fast relative to how complex it is. What happened was that it got set up, it got greenlit to be made while the script was still kind of being written, and they had a release date. And somehow in this tiny amount of time, you had to actually make the movie. Wow. So from my point of view, this is just to put it in perspective to say, how it's difficult to say how long things took. From my point of view, I'm working in London. I got a phone call from the producer who I'd worked with before on something else, and he was out in LA, and he said, "Oh, we got this movie called Space Jam," and I'm trying to find a pen, and I'm writing Space Jam, like, what is that even? Jam?
What does that mean? Yeah.
I don't know. You
Jelly,
could get
marmalade, jam.
Yeah.
What is,
yeah.
Apricot.
and I'm trying to figure it out. Anyway, he says, "Look, can we have a meeting? Can you fly out to LA?" And I said, "Sure." And I'm looking at the calendar going, I could, maybe next Monday I could fly. And he said, no, can you get on a plane now and fly out to LA? I went, I can't get on a plane right now, but maybe tomorrow morning I can get on a plane. So I went out there and I had packed 3 days worth of clothes because, I'm going out for a meeting.
Yeah.
And I turn up and I don't know what it was, breakfast, lunch, whatever time I arrived. I sat down and said, okay, let's have this meeting. And this producer said, to be honest, really, could you just start drawing? And I went, really? And they said, yeah, we kind of need to get on with it. And so
Wow.
I didn't get home. I didn't get home for 6-7 weeks. That first thing, they actually sent me out after a few days, gave me some cash and said, go buy some clothes. We're going to put you up against and I just started drawing. And this happened to other, as other supervisors came on. So it happened so fast. And then while in the first few weeks of pre-production, we had the script, and there's a sequence in there, I wish you guys remember, where Bugs and Daffy have to go in and break into Michael Jordan's house.
Yeah, classic.
Yeah, so we're reading the script, and they gave that little section to me and my little team out there to storyboard. And it's just a written script. And I remember looking at this going, okay, so let's think about this logically. They got to go along a corridor. They need to look in some doors. So maybe we need a door on that side and a door on that side. And I was just logically working my way through what kind of an interior of a house would work with this story thing. And then we started storyboarding it, and we showed it to Joe Bicker, the director, and he liked it, and he had some extra ideas. Anyway, literally a very few weeks. I mean, I couldn't, 3, 4, 5 weeks maybe after drawing this, I was on the Warner Brothers sound stages on where they were starting to film, and there was a door open, and inside that sketch I had made of the corridor, I mean, they built it.
Yeah. Wow.
It was already, I mean, obviously a production designer had spruced it up and put the detail in and done his thing. But essentially what I'd drawn was just that. Now that has never happened. That never happened to me before. It's never happened to me since. The speed at which stuff had to be done in order to get this film done in time. Wow. So
Impressive.
I actually don't know. It's the question, like how long? Because we were spinning like 300 plates at once, to try and get the film done. But we got it done.
That just makes what you guys did even more remarkable. Is you were under a timeline, and the fact that you went there, you didn't realize you'd be staying for more than 6 weeks, tells you a lot more about the film that a lot of people don't realize, and that's why I'm glad you're here laying things out. My next question has to do with your reflection upon your time holistically on this huge project. So when you look back, Neil, is there a part of Space Jam that you can say you're most proud of as the supervising animator?
Well, two things. One that makes me proud is like that story you just told me, where what it means to people and young people blows me away. I mean, what a privilege to have the job I have. I'm just a little cog in this machine. There's a lot of us making this film, but to be able to be part of that and to have that kind of impact on people, is lovely. But then there's another kind of, I don't even mean this as a joke, but probably the thing I'm proudest of is that we did finish the film because it seemed impossible. It just seemed impossible we could make it in time. And the fact it was finished and it did well and it was loved was amazing. And just like for some of your younger, audience, when Space Jam was made, we didn't have email, right? This is the year before email came in. Right. So we're working in London. There are some studios in Canada. There are studios dotted around in LA. We're all little satellite studios on this thing. If I'm sitting there in London with my artists, what we had to do was either phone up, like the old phones, screwed into the wall.
Yep.
Or if we needed to show something like some drawings or some designs, we would have to FedEx them. We'd put them in a box. The box would be picked up by a guy on a motorbike who'd take them to Heathrow Airport. It'd be put on a plane. It'd be flown over the Atlantic overnight. We'd get there in the morning. Would be, LAX would be driven to wherever. They would open it. The directors, they look at it and go, maybe we can make this 10% bigger. They put it back in a box. They'd go on a bike. It would go.
Wow.
We're literally FedExing because that's all there was. Yeah. So when you put that on top of how little time we had, it was kind of, it sounds prehistoric now, but it would have been so much easier with email, but we didn't have it. And also just on the cusp coming in, which was absolute science fiction to us, was the ability to talk to someone and see them. Exactly what we're doing now, right? We had just come in, but you couldn't do it like on a phone or anything. We had to go to one place in London that was owned by Cinesight, the visual effects company, and they booked time with a satellite. And then on a Friday evening, usually 6:00 our time, 10 in the morning LA, we would have one meeting a week and we could actually see each other. And like I say, this was like science fiction. Wow. So we would cross London. It'd take us 20 minutes to get to one place to sit down, to be inside of this giant machine that would, and they'd say, your time's coming up on the satellite. And, and up everyone would come in LA and everyone in London. But it wasn't even as stable as the stuff I'm talking to you guys on now. And the very first time, I'm blown away by this technology. I think, God, this is amazing. The very first time, Ivan Reitman, the producer, came on to sort of give us a big pep talk, and Ivan comes on screen and he said, okay, guys, I just want you to know there's just one thing we have to get right in this movie to make it work. And it's this. And we're going, wow, what a dramatic pause. Like, what's he going to say?
Yeah.
Sure. And then 20 seconds we go, oh, we've lost it's frozen. We've lost
That's what I thought would happen.
And presumably Ivan was still chatting away in LA, not knowing. Wow. And we were like, okay. And they tried to get a link and they never did that day. We couldn't, that was the end of the call. So to this day, I don't actually know what Ivan Reitman thinks is the most important thing. We achieved this one. Hopefully we hit it and we got it right. But yeah, incredible how to make a film in that period with very kind of quite limited technology it sounds probably crazy to younger people now listening, but that's how we had to do it.
It's crazy because I was only like 4 or 5 during this time. And now I should not have seen this movie, but you talk about the satellite, not Space Jam, to be clear. I'm mentioning a different movie here, but talking about the satellite, it was just becoming a thing, satellite video. I remember seeing Austin Powers, and they had satellite video in the movie.
Mhm.
And I was like, no, that can't be a thing. That's like science fiction, like you said. And
Yeah.
then when you talk about, oh, it actually was a thing, it just was, not that great. And I'm just like, oh, so there was some foundation there. I just find that funny. Should not have been watching Austin Powers at that age, but it happens.
You probably had no idea what was going on, to be honest. If you're
I
four.
had very little.
It's
That
made
being
you the
said,
man you are today.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
yeah, there's that. That being said, Space Jam has become a cultural classic. Did you realize while making it that the film would have such a lasting impact on both basketball fans and animation lovers?
We wanted it to, but you always do making movies, and it's a weird thing with creative work of any kind. Oh, I guess all sorts of jobs, not just creative work, but you never really know. Like you can work on a movie with all your heart and soul, and it for whatever reason just doesn't connect with an audience, and then you put just as much work in another one, and it really does connect, and
Yeah.
you never quite know what that ingredient X is, because I mean, if we did, we'd all be making blockbuster hit movies, right? We'd all be multimillionaires. Uh, we all wanted it desperately to connect, but you never know. But it was a huge relief. It's just an enormous relief when something does connect and it has an audience, and even better, like we've just been talking about. I mean, it's all well and good to be number one in the box office or something for a few weeks, but what's more important is like 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, 30, people still talking about it. That's what gives me a big kick, is that it gets woven into the culture, and that is a massive privilege.
So before we ask you the final question, which is about current projects you're working on that you're willing to share, Lucas and I didn't tell Lucas we were going to do this, but any questions, Lucas, about Space Jam that wasn't part of our original agenda? I'll start with a question. Do you have any good Bill Murray stories or Larry Bird stories or other like actors in the film?
I have to confess that I was not on set when Bill Murray was around. No. I didn't. I was mostly around Michael Jordan and Wayne Knight.
Okay.
Others, and then hundreds of people dressed in green or varying.
Yeah.
But
so what about Wayne Knight? And what, you got any Wayne Knight stories for us?
He was a lovely guy, and what a star, because I mean he's done like Jurassic Park and all sorts of stuff. He actually, power to him, credit to him, he came into, I think they kind of knew they wanted him, so it wasn't really an audition, but they do these sort of chemistry shoots. Well, they normally do it with actors that are playing lovers, like a guy and a girl or something. But they needed to know that Michael Jordan and he would work off each other. So one morning, just ahead of shooting what we were supposed to be shooting on the stage, Wayne came in and did his run through with Michael Jordan, and I mean he did it. He was great. He I don't know if he was nervous. If he was nervous, he didn't look it, but he has that kind of nervy energy, that kind of. And he was brilliant. And then, a few days later, there he is actually doing the movie. So I do remember him coming in and thinking the courage of an actor to walk in and know that maybe you could screw this up and not get the role. And not only that, but there's like 80 people standing there eating their breakfast, watching you potentially fail. But he was brilliant. Anyway, he did it. And that was fun.
Okay, so I got one. Thank you for answering that question, because it gave me time to think of one. Was there anything that you made or anything from the film in general that was cut that you wish wasn't?
It's a good question, Lucas.
No, I mean, I actually think most of it got it, because we were working such crazy hours to get this thing done. We didn't really have the luxury of cutting stuff out. We pretty much everything from memory, pretty much everything we did, I think went in. I mean, it may have got trimmed a little bit here and there, but I don't remember any major sequences going. No, I mean, I think the only thing, I'm sort of reluctant to say this in a way, because, the movie's loved. But what was interesting was that when Joe Picker, the director, came on board, and he'd done the Nike commercials before, with Hug and Mugwish, how he got the gig, I think he was very interested in doing a lot more dynamic photography, Dutched angles, very wide lenses, all this kind of stuff. And we talked actually about, so my old boss, Richard Williams, who directed the animation of Roger Rabbit and who was my mentor, um, he had done commercials for the Harlem Globetrotters in the 80s.
Okay.
And if you look them up, you can find them on YouTube. They're beautifully exaggerated. Like somebody's foot will go right up to the lens, and their head is like tiny. You know what I mean? Very exaggerated.
Yeah.
When I knew I was coming on, I got you guys this. Now this is the only one I've got. This is one piece of artwork he did. Like, can I hold it up so you can see that?
Oh,
Wow.
wow. That's nice.
That
That's
is
pretty cool.
just one frame. If I come in even closer, you can see how incredibly detailed this is.
Oh, wow.
So you got to do 24 of these a second.
Mm.
That kind of
Wow.
distortion, see his fingers getting bigger and his closest arm being much bigger and all this kind of stuff. We talked a lot about doing a lot of that. And in the end, to be honest, we just didn't have, Picker couldn't, it was going to take too much time to do some of these
Right.
very dynamic,
Yeah.
but shot in
Right.
a fairly kind of standard way. So, in another universe with a bit
Yeah.
more time and money, it would have been nice maybe to throw in a few more dynamic shots. But no, I mean, I'm really happy with the movie because it's loved, and what a privilege to work on it. Yeah.
If there was ever a film that could be described as impeccable in terms of the story, in terms of the execution of animation, merge with the live action, Michael Jordan, I can't think of another movie besides Space Jam. So kudos to you, Neil. But we want to look toward the future now because you're still active out here with your animation. If you can, please reveal to our listeners, what do you have going on right now? Any projects that you're working on that's going to be released soon?
So I want to mention Kensuke's Kingdom because that's the movie I co-directed with Kirk Hendry.
Sure.
And that didn't get much of a release in America because it's a little independent European animated feature. But we did really well. We won British Animation Awards. We were nominated for a BAFTA and so on. And it has Cillian Murphy.
BAFTA. Okay, I know that.
Cillian Murphy, Sally Hawkins, all sorts of Ken Watanabe, all sorts of great people. So Kensuke's Kingdom, you can get on Blu-ray and DVD, and I think you can stream it in various places. So totally different Space Jam, tonally. But check that out if you're interested in that. And then I'm trying to set up a feature film, which is a drama set in World War One, which I'm going to co-direct with John Stevenson, who directed Kung Fu Panda. And we're at the moment just getting this together, and then we're going to go out and see if we can raise some money to actually do it. So fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
And it was called, I'm sorry, I'm checking to see if I can get Cascade Kingdom on Netflix right now. How do you spell that again?
Okay, so it's pronounced Kensuke, but it's Ken. I tell you what, look, I can hold it up for you. Look, shameless promotion.
No. How do you pronounce it again?
Well, it's Japanese as Kensuke.
Kensuke? I pronounced it wrong.
It says Kensuke or Kensuke, but it's Kensuke.
Kensuke's Kingdom. Okay, all right. Kensuke's Kingdom. All right.
If you like a bit of kind of peaceful, pacifist, quiet, gentle movie that maybe make you cry a bit, but happy, that's the movie for you.
I'm ready to cry right now. I'm going to watch it tonight, and no, I'm thrilled that you shared that. And honestly, I'm going to try and watch it tonight. You said it's on Netflix.
I just searched it. I could not find it.
You can find it. We'll find it.
It'll be somewhere.
You said it was limited release in America, right?
I'm limited in cinema, but I know it's streaming and I know it's on Blu-ray and stuff like that. So
I'll Google search it real quick.
See. Sadly, no basketball action.
No,
there's not even a ball like Wilson that was in Castaway. I mean, but
well
maybe
said. Well said. Yeah. So Neil,
you can get it on Tubi for free.
Tubi, I have Tubi.
Yes,
I think I have Tubi. Pretty sure I have Tubi.
I do.
Yeah,
my daughter likes one thing on there, so I have to get it.
Yeah. So we also do interviews. We do comparisons of NBA players, past and present. But what we started, Neil, is we're doing basketball movie reviews. Space Jam was the first one we picked. Think about that. Like we could have picked. There's dozens of basketball films, but Lucas, we said let's do the research.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go through each scene, each act. Just so proud to have you on here, and really excited to promote all of your other work and other projects.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, it's been an absolute privilege and really lovely to bask in the nostalgic glow of something that I know it's 30 years ago, but it just feels like a couple of months ago, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Lucas,
for sure.
anything for the greater good before we sign off?
If you have Tubi, I would suggest watching it. This is definitely it almost feels like I'm looking at some of the animation. It feels like a cross between like Studio Ghibli and like almost like Rescuers animation. And I like it.
That's fair enough. Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
It's definitely got a kind of Studio Ghibli vibe to it for sure.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
like it. I like it. It's definitely got some good vibes.
Cool.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So that wraps up another episode of our 50, 40, 90 interview series. We again thank Neil Boyle for spending time with us from across the pond. It's late. It's almost midnight where you are, right?
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. But anyway, check out all of his work. Can you give a plug for your website, Neil? Where can people find your website and all your work?
Well, the stuff about me is neilboyle.co.uk. I think I should be able to remember all this. Or just look me up on IMDb.
IMDb.
There you go.
That's the way to go.
Links to various things. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so that wraps up our behind the scenes of Space Jam with the animation supervisor, Neil Boyle. Next time you hear from us, we will be interviewing the director of the Amazon Prime popular series. I mean, it's hot like fire. We're talking about Soul Power, the Amazon Prime docuseries. We're going to be speaking with the director of that, Keenan Kamwana-Holly. So you can look forward to that and other amazing guests in basketball, related to basketball and film. So on behalf of Lucas Johnson and Neil Boyle, I'm Uriah Young. Thanks for listening.
See you guys.